And joining us now to explain more about what's happening in the Northeast, he was kind enough to join us earlier in the program. He is the chief forecaster for WeatherBELL Analytics and the former chief long-range forecaster at AccuWeather. He's our friend Joe Bastardi. So, Joe, you joined us earlier today. You were taking the historical perspective, but perhaps with a little skepticism. What are you seeing, and what do you think is in store?
Well, I'm not skeptical about New England or Long Island. The only thing I was suggesting is that the mayor understands that if this is the worst that anybody's ever seen, it would have to be 26.9 inches, which was in February of 2006, and that wasn't that long ago. So you put historical perspective on it, it's better than using adjectives that may or may not describe the situation. Certainly life-threatening and dangerous is a pretty good description, even if there's only 6 to 10 inches of snow. Now, there's something going on behind the scenes here that's probably more of interest to me than you, but I'm going to say it anyway. The two biggest computer modeling centers in the world, the European Center versus the U.S. Center, are at war with each other. The European is the one that really hammers New York City. The U.S. generated model just came out, one of them, and says 6 to 8 inches. Another one has 20 to 25 inches. And this is the world of virtual weather, which is very interesting. What I like to do is I look at those models, but look at the storm type. It seems to be the type of storm that will fit into the top 10, top 5 in New York history. I don't think it'll be number 1, but it is definitely a dangerous situation if you're caught outside. If you're in front of a fireplace reading a book or watching Newsmax, you'll be in good shape tomorrow.
Many New Yorkers, we know, rely on public transportation for their day-to-day activities. So are things like the subway system going to be safe to use? I mean, you're saying stay inside, but people getting around, how are they going to be affected by this?
Well, I forecast the weather. I don't try to tell people what to do at all about that. And I think there's going to be close to 20 inches of snow in New York, whipped by 40-mile-an-hour winds and temperatures in the teens and low 20s. I would suspect that the person has a bright enough mind to figure out what he has to do. I would certainly, if it's a situation where you have to go someplace, then you go someplace. If you don't, then I'd stay in. But that's my opinion. For instance, this morning, I lifted in my gym in the basement. I didn't go to the gym down the road over here because the roads were bad. It was snowing. I made that decision. So people have to make decisions on their own as to what they're going to do.
And Joe, it's interesting. You mentioned a kind of battle between the different weather modeling computers. We got a minute left. Why the difference in the samples or the computer models?
Well, there's another story behind it, in that the Europeans just upgraded theirs and the U.S. just upgraded ours. So there's the other night there was sort of a preliminary fight in New York the other night where the European Friday night beat the U.S. model as far as snowfall goes. The difference is the input and the physics in the model. The European, as of last night, was seeing a more intense development in close, looping a little bit offshore. The U.S. model, which has always been notorious for trying to push storms too far east, tries to get it a little bit further east. Listen, everybody's talking about New York. New England, get ready. I'll say one thing, the blizzard of 78, that's what you should remember as a storm type this is going to be.
Fair enough. Joe Bastardi, WeatherBELL Analytics, with the story behind the story. Joe has more for us as we're looking for a blizzard in the Northeast. You be looking for us to return following this break on America's Forum. Back to talk more about the impending storm, the chief forecaster for WeatherBELL Analytics, Joe Bastardi. So, Joe, before the break, you were saying New York, okay, it could be industrial strength up there, but New England, it's really going to hit. Do I have that right?
We're most certain about New England. I'm pretty certain about New York getting pretty close to 20 inches of snow, and the island 20 to 30. But I'm more certain about New Bedford, New London, Providence, Boston. Some of these places having amounts similar to what we had in February 1978. Now, if I was going to reference the worst storm ever in New York, I'd say, okay, folks, remember what happened in February 2006. And most people can remember that, or more recently, a day or two after Christmas in 2010. And when you tell people that, they can actually say, yeah, I remember that, and I remember what I had to do and everything else like that. But 78 in New England really shut them down for 3 to 5 days. I mean, the famous pictures in the Providence Journal of just I-95 in Providence with cars abandoned and everything else because the snow came in at 3 to 4 inches an hour. And that's what's going to happen across much of New England, southern New England tomorrow. And that is the type of thing where if you get stuck, you don't get out of that. So very, very serious situation for southern New England. And there, a lot of people live in southern New England, not only around New York City.
Joe, I actually have family up there, and I know they've asked me this question today. What can we tell the public safety measure-wise? What can they take? What can people take to best prepare for this kind of weather?
Well, first of all, I think that because it's a very cold snow, it's not going to be like we're going to have tree limbs coming down left and right, except perhaps in some of the coastal areas where the winds may gust close to hurricane force. And that's a problem because there's going to be flooding and that type of thing, especially, looking east from Massachusetts and Long Island Sound, probably going to see a lot of flooding out of this type of situation. But I think you have to use common sense. When the weather gets this bad, you do what they did in the old days and still do. You hunker down and you get prepared before. You know the storm's coming. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't turn out as bad as what everybody's screaming and yelling about, you'll have food for the next one, which in this particular winter may be coming along in a few days. Not to this extent, but it's going to keep snowing quite a bit over the next week to 10 days in the northeast part of the United States. Now, my dad's a meteorologist, but he's 85 now, and he's been through New England blizzards left and right, so he knows what to do. I just have to make sure he doesn't go out there and try to show he could shovel snow at that age. That's what gets me a little nervous there.
Well, that's one of the big things, is it not? Everybody wants to go shovel their driveways, and we don't wish for this, but at times it seems there's a corresponding increase in cardiac problems for people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it's kind of funny because I wrestled at Penn State back in the 70s. And I used to go, my wrestling coach lives around here. I used to always go and shovel them out. And, I was 31 years old. I was out there shoveling them out one time. And I go, what the heck is going on? I start feeling lightheaded and everything else. And I said, well, I can't drop over dead in front of him here because I did that on the mat a couple of times in front of him. So I'm just telling you, take it easy. I mean, I'm trying to put a little bit of light spin on this. But you have to really watch yourself when you're shoveling snow. You start tingling or feeling lightheaded. That is a real dangerous situation. I have a
Joe,
snowblower, actually not a snowblower. I have a professional snow shoveler, my 18-year-old son. In fact,
we can understand now. Joe Bastardi, we thank you very much for your insights. All kidding aside, I did like the advice as the snow falls in the Northeast. Just stay in front of the fire and watch Newsmax TV. Joe Bastardi, again, our thanks for your time and your insights on what is headed for the northeastern United States. That is going to do it for us today on America's Forum. Waiting in the wings, our friend Ed Berliner with Midpoint. A reminder that at 3 o'clock Eastern, a Newsmax special anchored by John Bachman about the blizzard that apparently is going to unfold. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 in the East, 6 in the West. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.